Thanks, Dr. Kelvin, for joining in this conversation about Gerontechnology. So, Singapore is now officially a super aged society, while countries such as Japan, Korea, China, all probably some of them are already there or some of them are getting there. So, how do you see this whole aging challenge evolving across Asia over the next decade? And what are the lessons that Singapore can learn from these countries?
Singapore is certainly in the same league as Japan, Korea, and also the other Asian countries. We are aging very fast because during the last 40, 50 years, we have the best of time. Economic was good, and there's a baby boom that time. But at this moment, every countries are a bit more careful in terms of planning new families and young families. And this is why there's a lopsided ratio of more older person than young people. We are coping. And in Singapore, we are a blue zone, a very good status in terms of number of centenarians, which means that we have good policies in health. We are adopting a lot of new technologies. We are also promoting intergeneration relationships, the social aspect of it. Yeah. And this very good initiatives by the government, including spaces we design for allowing more communal provisioning of activities. And I think we are doing fine in these aspects. However, the pressure will step up as we enter the new era in 2030, when 1 in 4 is over 65 years old. That means we may not have sufficient labor, either trained or untrained, to provide caregiving support. And on the other hand, we also have lesser babies among us, which means in going forward, families which are young today, we've got children, they will have new challenges.
So, you rightly touched upon the aspect of shortage of caregivers and healthcare workers. So, beyond simply filling manpower gaps, how can technology help create more resilient and sustainable elder care ecosystems?
Actually, this is very appropriate time for us to consider the use of technology. In many ways, the hardware, which includes robots, includes wearables, includes IoT devices and sensors, which allows us to pick up many interesting information about the different needs, physical needs or mental needs, because these days sensors are very much more advanced. They can pick up a lot of cues, for example, emotional cues, functional cues. And from this information that are collected by all the different sensors, we could then feed this into a system behind, whether it is a cloud-based SaaS system or it's a system that use a lot of more AI to understand the digital twin of us, which is a digital representative of who we are, what we're made up of. And I think this is where technology can play quite a big part and will help to reduce the stress and burnout caregivers.
So, Gerontechnology has often been viewed as a very niche field.
Yes.
But do you believe that we are reaching a point where, technology is designed for older people and elder care will kind of become mainstream?
Yeah, certainly. Actually, you're right. So far, Gerontechnology is not really viewed as a very sexy technology compared with blockchain for banking or maybe cryptocurrency, where the startups look at these ideas, they know they're going to hit the jackpot and make some money. But when you look at drone technology, it seems very unsexy in some ways because, take for example, wheelchairs. It hasn't evolved a lot. It's still a very mechanical wheelchair. It doesn't suit the lifestyle because it seems like people are more frugal when it comes to investing on Gerontechnology versus technology that are suited for the babies, the young ones, and things like that. But I would say there's an inflection point now because adoption has seen better uptake through more accessible costs, through other countries which are also aging, they produce more products. So at Singapore, we have small population of 4.3 million Singaporeans and residents, we could then now access to a bigger market that's available in Japan, Korea, and even China. And we can bring AI and robots into Singapore and benefit our own people.
So one of your significant part of your research has been around social robots,
Yes.
yeah, and their role in supporting older people. So how has the perception of social robot evolved over the years? Because obviously these days you go to any technology exhibition, you see different kinds of social robots,
Yeah.
right from small pet dogs to
Yes.
I mean various forms of humanoids.
Yeah.
Various forms of
Yeah.
humanoids.
Yes. Yes.
So how do you think uh, this will help in addressing loneliness and cognitive decline among the elder generation?
Yes. I think social loneliness is a very big problem in most countries because, especially in Asia, the people are always very busy. They're out of the house. The older person spending most of the time on their own, unless they got kakis and friends to go out to durian trips to JB or different pleasures of interest. They might be left at home and feeling quite lonely. And loneliness is equivalent to vaping cigarettes. I think we often know that how bad it is. So social robots has come in many more forms, shapes, and sizes today, from robotic dogs, which are small. The first one was from Sony Aibo, all the way now to humanoids, like the upcoming one from Tesla, Optimus, and even a lot more from China that can play Kung Fu and everything. So it's pretty exciting that there are more players coming on board. And because of them joining this Gerontechnology market in terms of robots and social robots, people are more familiar with such technologies and such. But main thing is still the cost. We see that the options of social robots, which I've been using to do research from Japan, being a very cute one, but Singaporeans are sometimes very practical people. They look at this robot and say, what else can it do other than being my companion? Can it be a vacuum machine? Can it do some functional things for me? So I think that expectations of what is social versus a functional robot has to come to some level of equity, that when social, it is a pet, and the pet doesn't talk to you, but a pet is always there as an attentive friend to you, and you don't feel any more lonely. So I think this perception of emotional robots, which is social, versus a functional robot, which is utilitarian, doing some work, has to be properly perceived and defined.
So, what role do you think artificial intelligence can play in this? Because
Mm.
conventionally, all the discussion around AI has always been about productivity and enterprise applications.
Yes.
So, when it comes to Geron technology and these kind of companion robots for elder care, and maybe even other technologies like you mentioned about wheelchairs, which have consistently, I mean, they so far remained a very mechanical thing. So, how do you think artificial intelligence is going to play a role in this?
Yeah, I think artificial intelligence certainly helps the technology to become more user friendly. One, it understands the humans more because it can pick up the patterns, and therefore, through the familiarity of patterns, it becomes more tailored towards the responses. So, a conversation or a prediction of your emotions becomes more effective, and that's what AI do very well. And on the other hand, AI can also trigger certain emergencies when they detect a change in behavior, or not just emotional, it can be physical. So, for example, we're seeing AI analyzing images that are captured by the robots. And these images allow someone to be aware that the person is unstable today, might be tend to fall down because that's not his usual pattern of sleep, usual pattern of walking, and usual pattern of eating certain food even, right? And he's becoming a bit upset over certain things. So emotional cues as well as physical cues will be what AI can do. And some of these robots can also provide companionship in terms of conversations. So we heard of robots able to make people happy by telling a joke, singing a song, and things like that. So those are very fun things that AI can do.
Right. So you touched on a very interesting subtopic because most of the time technology, particularly in elder care, is considered to be less personal, and in the sense that it's not something that elders find it very. I mean, as human beings, I mean, we always expect more kind of social engagement. So how can designers and policymakers and even technologists basically use artificial intelligence and robotics that it becomes more personal in nature, more social in terms of engaging with the
Mm.
elder care?
Mm. I think we heard a lot about co-creation and co-design. I think these are very important process when we talk about a new product or new service, right? It's not the traditional top-down where it's mass production, cookie cut solution, but rather bottoms up because every individual is heterogeneous. We have our own interesting cues and idiosyncrasies. And I think because of this, AI is very effective in terms of the technology today. It is much more easier to do, such customization, reduce the workload of coding, and it learns just like agentic AI today. It doesn't just take instruction. It's able to even make decisions based on some patterns. So it will get smarter, and the fact that we need edge computing right at where the part of devices, whether it's a robot or sensor, I can see that the intelligence is now pushed to the edge, and the edge you don't always need to go to cloud to make a more reactive conversation or engagement.
Right. So in Asian cultures, there is even now there's a strong bond as far as families are concerned.
Mm.
So how can some of these technologies, because obviously
Mm.
the elder care, I mean, there are still going to be people within the family who might be
Mm.
caregivers and all that. So how
Mm.
can these technologies essentially assist caregivers and yet also fulfill the role as far as
Mm.
taking care of the older generation is
Yes,
concerned?
certainly. I think recently we worked very closely with one of the Japanese company called Kanamic. And Kanami is one of the biggest provider in Japan on solutions to link families together and also the healthcare system together. This linkage network the family of caregivers, friends, and loved ones with the information of the from the healthcare system, the electronic health records, for example, allow more people to be aware of the people they care through mobile phone access to the same record, and they are all able to help look at each other's conditions. And therefore, I think this is where that neighborliness and sense of belonging becomes even stronger because the accessibility of information and the caring is now making it much easier for everybody to get involved with helping each other. And I think this is what AI is good and technology is good at.
So another area of your research has been on intergenerational
Mm.
relationships.
Mm.
So, and the role of technology in connecting generations.
Mm.
So, as families grow smaller and more geographically dispersed,
Mm.
how can technology still help strengthen the connections between various generations,
Mm.
grandparents, parents,
Mm.
children, grandchildren?
Yeah. Well, I think during COVID, uh, that was really a stress test for family relationships because of that isolation to prevent transmission of pandemic situation. And that's where there were a lot of interesting studies to investigate how through telemedicine, through Zoom calls, through FaceTime, etc., brings everyone together through the visuals and audio. But post pandemic, because of the higher digital literacy and technology awareness, we are even more comfortable to connect up the different devices that cut across all the boundaries, like devices that allow us to do voice memo, to transmit contents to each other, even if the time differences are there. And we also see that information on, for example, photos created with AI, that creates legacy of wisdom transfer. using multimedia is also happening. And fun bite-sized video also helps a lot. In fact, with the Silver Caregiver Cooperative, we are already going to prepare some bite-sized video that allows busy caregivers to also know how to level up the information in terms of caregiving tips, etc. So the community can actually be pulled together closer because of the discussion forum, the digital means to let everyone have a better exchange of knowledge and wisdoms and value systems.
Right. So, if you were to revisit this conversation, maybe 10 years from now,
Yeah.
what do you think the elder care and aging in Singapore would look like? And secondly, what kind of technologies you think will kind of still be there? Or, I mean, what is the kind of technology would exist at that point of time in terms of innovations, and what kind of policies may be there when a decade from now?
Yeah. I wish I can read the tea leaves, but I think as a very conservative person in terms of technology adoption, people will become more acceptance of robots moving around their house, co-living with each other. We may not call robots brothers and sisters, but they're going to be among us as companions, like electronic dogs and cats. They will also help us to relieve some of the loads. For example, we have seen robots that help to move seniors from place to place to improve the mobility so that they can get out of the building. So I see 10 years from now, the adoption of robots will definitely be higher. I will say that on the other hand, there will be skeptics who are worried about how technology is robbing them their privacy. So then there needs a bit of balance between these two, and I'm not too sure how that balance can be best struck because we will have new cohorts of older person, our demographics may change. So that's where it will be very interesting to know whether smart nation like Singapore will become a very pro technology environment for business to thrive to, and also the consumers willing to give technology a chance to be in the house where they stay and in an environment where it is going to produce the kind of efficiency and productivity for us. I think it's not going to be a utopian world, but it will be a world that at least we see tech come to be the play for all of us.
Right. So, as an academician, do you see more interest among the new generation to look at this subject of general technology?
Yeah, well, I just brought 40 students to Vietnam to work with 40 students in Vietnam by University of Vang Lang. And then the whole intent is to encourage them to take a new perspective of what impact social has influenced by technology. And there's a lot of excitement about this because I think they don't want to be left out from the opportunities that we so far have mentioned about gerontology and healthcare. So I think their patterns of interest were also driven by the opportunities that the sector produce now. And I'm pretty optimistic that jobs is very important for every generation, and because of new jobs created that use technology and innovation to bring about better quality of life for their families, their loved ones, this will not change. And therefore, I believe the young ones will continue to be curious and continue to be interested on how technologies and new knowledge can be applied for community, for their job, and their loved ones.
Thank you, Dr. Kelvin. Thank you very much.
Interview.